Based on what I've been told, there are only 2 of these monitors out in the wild, and I have one of them. I'm talking about the Asus ROG Swift PG27UCDM, which Asus says is the world's first 27-inch 4K OLED gaming monitor, though I suspect we'll see plenty more monitors packing this panel when CES kicks off in just a few days. Now, this isn't a full review of the monitor. This is a pre-production unit. It literally arrived at my door in an unmarked white box, so there still could be some changes. Asus tells me that just about everything is set in stone as far as the hardware goes, but I'm not doing extensive brightness or color testing just yet. I'll give you some impressions, but there's a good chance Asus will have a firmware update or two between now and when the monitor actually releases, so I don't want to lead anyone astray. But hey, before getting into the rest of the video, make sure to leave a like and get subscribed here to Digital Trends, please and thank you. Let's address the whole world's first claim here right away. I first heard about this panel last year at CES, but at the time it wasn't available in any monitors. Now it is, and the panel is a combination of different form factors and features that we've seen on other monitors up to this point. It's a 3rd gen QD-OLED panel from Samsung Display. It's a continuation of the generation of displays we've seen over the past year, not an entirely new generation. It joins a 27-inch 1440p panel running at 360 Hz and a 32-inch 4K panel running at 240 Hz. This one kind of splits the difference in a way with a 4K resolution, 27-inch size, and a 240 Hz refresh rate. No, this isn't some crazy new milestone in the world of OLED gaming monitors, but it's a panel that I know a lot of folks have been asking for. I still think a 32-inch monitor is the best size for 4K, at least from a pixel density perspective, but there are a lot of reasons you may want a 27-inch display with a 4K resolution. You're getting higher pixel density, absolutely, but more importantly, 27 inches just makes more sense in some cases. Maybe you don't have a lot of extra desk space, or maybe you play a lot of competitive games where smaller screen sizes are more manageable. Or maybe you just prefer a 27-inch monitor. Regardless, this kind of display, despite not being revolutionary, hasn't existed before. And man, it works. You're getting a density of 166 pixels per inch, which is extremely sharp. It's really hard to overstate the difference in sharpness between 4K on a 32-inch monitor and 4K on a 27-inch monitor, but let me try. Think of when you first wake up on a weekend and step outside for the first time. Your eyes adjust and you look up at the trees and they look like impossibly sharp. You can see the individual branches, the leaves, even all the way up in the air, and it just feels kind of, I don't know, like hyper realistic. That's really the best way I can think of to describe what it's like using the PG27UCDM for the first time. I spent most of my time with the monitor playing Path of Exile 2 because I am hopelessly addicted to it, and it just looks incredible. Especially with a game like this, it's almost like there's too much detail to fit on this size of the screen all at once, but somehow it works. Now, this isn't just a new panel. Asus actually has a lot of extra goodies here that make this display feel like a monitor worthy of being an early 2025 release. First, you're getting the full array of features that we've seen from Asus over the past year. That includes the expansive OLED Care Pro feature set, as well as Asus's Extreme Low Motion Blur, or ELMB. That's the name Asus uses for its black frame insertion, or BFI. Basically, this inserts a black frame between each refresh for better motion clarity, particularly at lower frame rates like when you play on a console, for example. ELMB actually wasn't working on my pre-production unit, though previous Asus displays like the PG32UCDM have come with some severe limitations on the feature, including a locked 120 Hz refresh rate, no HDR, and pretty low brightness. In addition, you also get Asus Display Widget Center, so you can control all of the aspects of the monitor with your keyboard and mouse, and Asus even packed in a new automatic firmware update feature for the display. It's very handy. Finally, you get Dolby Vision and HDR10 support, which you can toggle on in the on-screen display. That's all expected, but there are some new things here too. The most interesting is what Asus calls the Neo Proximity Sensor, which picks up whenever you're close to the screen. Doesn't really sound like a big deal, but I actually love this feature. Basically, how this works is that the screen will automatically shut itself off when you're not sitting in front of it after either 1, 5, or 10 minutes. You can choose how long it takes. When you return, the screen automatically wakes itself back up. And it works basically flawlessly. You can set a maximum distance or set it to do like a dynamic distance if you're prone to rocking back and forth in your chair like I am. But regardless, the screen returned within no more than a second or two every time I sat down at the monitor. And I mean every single time. It was perfect. I really do love this feature, and I hope it's something that Asus carries forward in its other gaming displays. Also new is DisplayPort 2.1. Yes, Asus finally has a gaming monitor with DisplayPort 2.1 and with the full 80 gigabits per second signal, so you can run 4K at 240 Hz without display stream compression. I know a lot of commenters will be very happy about that. It joins two HDMI 2.1 ports along with a USB-C input with 90 watts of power delivery. And those aren't new, but they're good to know nonetheless. As usual, Asus includes a USB hub built into the display with 3 USB ports. I'm not sure what kind of USB ports these are actually, but if the PG27UCDM is anything to go by, they should be USB 3.2 Gen 1 ports. Don't quote me on that right now, but I think that's what they are. Now, I already said I'm not allowed to give hard numbers yet, and you probably wouldn't want me to anyway, given that there are probably some firmware updates on the way, but I'll say this much. I did some preliminary color and brightness testing, and things are looking very good. That really shouldn't come as a surprise though. I've reviewed a ton of Asus OLEDs at this point, and they're kind of the cream of the crop when it comes to brightness and color accuracy. I don't suspect the final version of this one will be any different. Another strong point for Asus monitors are their design, and the PG27UCDM carries the same design language forward that we've seen with other ROG monitors. You get the familiar tri-point stand with a ROG logo that shines through the bottom, a 1/4 inch mount on top of the monitor, and a ton of room for adjustment. The panel itself is also decently thin, not the thinnest I've seen from Asus, but that's largely because there is a power supply built into this monitor, so you don't have to plug in some massive power brick. The design and stand here are really some of the best you can find on the market, but if for some reason you don't want to use the included stand, you're free to use a 100mm by 100mm VESA mount. Asus includes a pretty chunky adapter in the box that allows you to throw it up on any monitor arm or wall mount. The PG27UCDM is already a fantastic start to 2025 for gaming monitors. I suspect it won't be the world's first for long, but that really doesn't matter. This display is incredibly sharp, and it's the perfect showcase of how Asus continues to evolve the feature set on its monitors beyond the standard fare you see on everything. One big lingering question for me, however, is pricing, especially in the face of the PG32UCDM and similar 32-inch 4K OLEDs we've seen over the past year. They've fallen from around $1,300 to $1,000 or even $900 in some cases, so I really don't have high hopes for the PG27UCDM if it's over $1,000. We'll just have to wait and see. Although I still prefer a 32-inch display at 4K, the PG27UCDM is definitely challenging my position. I mean, it's been great playing Path of Exile 2 and Marvel Rivals on a smaller display, taking in all the details I need to at once. I don't prefer it for those more cinematic experiences. I'm thinking of something like Silent Hill 2, but to each their own. Regardless of preference, there's no denying that this is one impressive gaming monitor. And it's finally fulfilling a role that I know a lot of users have been asking for, a 27-inch 4K OLED display at 240 Hz. I mean, really, what else could you ask for? Now, as I mentioned, this is a pre-production unit. I do plan on doing a full review in the future, so don't take this as some reigning endorsement quite yet. This is just some early impressions while I test out the display. But hey, in the meantime, make sure to get subscribed here at Digital Trends. CES starts in just a few days from when this video uploads, and there are going to be a ton of videos coming out over really the next week, so you don't want to miss any of them. Also, while you're down there getting subscribed, make sure to check out the description. You'll find a link to our Respec newsletter down there where I talk about every single week all of the crazy stuff going on in the world of PC gaming, from monitors to graphics cards to games themselves, handhelds, everything. I talk about it each and every week in the Respec newsletter. Make sure to get signed up for that. I think you'll really enjoy it. All right, thanks for watching, everyone. I will see you next week in Las Vegas when CES kicks off officially. Bye.